Now that we've launched Mastercam, let's explore the user interface. I'll move my cursor to the upper left-hand corner of the screen. The first thing that I'll point out is the Quick Access toolbar. The Quick Access toolbar will contain a customizable set of frequently used functions that can be accessed by the user. For example, as I move from left to right, we have File New, File Save, File Open, Print, Save As, Zip to Go, Undo, and Redo. The Quick Access toolbar can be repositioned on the screen and customized by the user to enhance your Mastercam experience. The next feature that we'll look at is the File menu. I'll move my cursor to the upper left-hand corner and press on the word File. This will bring us to Mastercam's Backstage view. In the Backstage view, we're going to find common file manipulation functions, such as File New, File Open, File Merge, File Save. We've got a command called Open in Editor, which will allow you to open NC files and text files in an external text editor. File Save Some, the Zip to Go utility, and conversion menus. We've also got access to the System Configuration and Options menus. And I'll press the return arrow to exit the Backstage view. Mastercam 2018 makes use of what are known as ribbon bars to house our various commands. The first one is the Home tab, and this is otherwise known as a ribbon tab. Under the Home tab, we're going to find access to some of our most commonly used functions. We'll see some editing tools here under Clipboard. You can see we've got Paste, Cut, Copy, Copy Image. We've got a panel for attributes. This is going to allow us to change our drawing attributes. For example, point style. You'll notice that with many of these commands, there will be additional commands available through the use of a drop-down or fly-out menu. In this example, we are looking at Mastercam's point style. This will allow us to change the visual appearance of points that we create on the screen. By default, we have this, what's known as the 3D star, but we also have options such as a simple dot, a plus sign or crosshairs, an X sign or crosshairs for indicating the point location, a circle, a square, and some wire specific icons such as cut point and thread point and cut point. The same is true for line style. So for this option here in attributes, we can click on the drop down and choose the style of line that we would like to draw in. To the right of that is another drop down menu that's got options for line width. You'll be going back and forth to this attributes panel quite often. In addition to wireframe drawing style, we have the 2D, 3D switch, which will toggle between 2D and 3D construction modes. Then we have separate color options for wireframe, solids, and surfaces. So as we switch back and forth between creating these different types of entities, Mastercam has a default color for those three different designations. So there's wireframe, solid entities, and surface entities. Next to these color attributes is the Clear Colors button. This is going to reset all the entities to their default colors and we'll usually need to use this option after performing a move or a copy under the transform menu. Beside that is set from entity command and set all. In addition to the drawing attributes on the attributes panel, we've got sections for organization, which includes the construction or Z depth and the levels options. So this includes setting the current level, a drop-down menu which would allow us to select from existing levels, and a change level command to the left of the level selection. So there's the change level command. Now you'll notice with many of these sections in the ribbon bar that all of the commands that we want to access for that section are already there. So for example, if I go to display, you'll see that we've got hide unhide with a drop down to access additional hide options. We have the center points function, and some of these commands are a toggle. And what I mean by a toggle is that when you click on the button itself, the button color will indicate the status of the function. For example, we have this arc center points display option, and currently the background is a dark blue-gray color, which indicates that the function is enabled. If I click on it and move my mouse out of the way, you'll see that the background of the button returns to the normal light gray like the rest of the commands. What this indicates is that that function toggle is currently turned off. To see this, let's go ahead and create some geometry on the screen. I'm going to go over to the wireframe command and select circle center point. This will allow us to create a circle by specifying the center point and the radius or diameter. I'm going to click on circle center point, and Mastercam's now going to prompt me to enter the center point. And I'll move my cursor into the graphics window, and I'll click to start my arc. And as I move my cursor in or out from the center, you'll notice that the radius and diameter boxes over here on the left are dynamically updating to show me the current radius and diameter. I'm going to click to place the size of the arc, and right now this entity is what we call a live entity in Mastercam. And a live entity just means that the entity itself is still in a state of being edited. We can move our cursor over to the circle center point panel, for example, and type in a new diameter. If I type in 2.0 and press enter, you'll notice that Mastercam will update the preview of this live entity. And again, still being live, I can enter a new value, say 5.0, press enter, and Mastercam once again will update. Whenever we have a panel command, such as the circle center point command that's active right now, we'll typically have a set of buttons available on the top bar here. So if I hover over the question mark, we'll see a little prompt pop up that says that that's the help little tooltip that pops up for us. Over on the right hand side, you'll see we have a command for OK and create new operation. If I press this green check mark, which is OK, that's going to exit the current function and accept the entity that we've created. If I press the OK and new operation, that's going to accept the arc that we just created and allow me to create another arc while remaining in the circle center point function. And to the right, we have the cancel command, or the red X. If I press the blue check mark, the entity itself is going to be accepted, and Mastercam will now prompt us to enter the center point of another arc. I'm going to click to place the center point of a second arc and click again to accept the diameter. I'll enter 4.5 for this diameter. And I'll create a third arc on the screen by again clicking and dragging from the center point. And then I'll exit the circle center point function by pressing the OK button. I just created these arcs randomly on the screen. In other words, the center point location of each of these arcs wasn't really specified with any precision. I simply clicked randomly on the screen to pick up an X, Y, Z coordinate, and Mastercam is going to create the arc in the place where I clicked to start creating it. So I simply clicked randomly in an XY location on the screen, and Mastercam picked up a point that was near my cursor to start the arc. And I did that for all three of these, which means that they weren't really located with any specific XY coordinate in mind and no real specific precision. The reason that I created them was to show you that function on the Home ribbon tab. So I'll click on Home, and now if I click on Arc Center Points, you'll notice that when I click there, Mastercam displays a very faint center point at the center of our arc. And if I click again on that toggle, Mastercam removes that center point from our display. Now, it might be a little easier to see visually if we changed the color of these arcs. So how would we change the color? In the Attributes panel, these three options here, wireframe color, solid color, and surface color, are really used for setting the color for creating new entities. In order to change colors, we're going to access Mastercam's right-click menu. If I right-click or click on the mouse button 3 on my mouse, Mastercam is going to display a right-click quick access menu. This right mouse menu gives us access to a lot of the commonly used functions for changing the graphics view, for analyzing entities, and for changing attributes. It also gives us access to the change level command, which will allow us to move or copy entities between levels. And it gives us access to the wireframe, the solid, and the surface color. If I change my wireframe color either here on the Attributes panel, say for example I click the drop down menu and select green, or I right click and select a different wireframe color, maybe a red, I'm changing the color of new entities that I create. In order to change the color of existing entities, I simply need to select them. Now, Mastercam has multiple ways of selecting entities, and this brings us to the selection bar. So if I move my cursor to this toolbar that's kind of floating in the middle of our graphics window, This selection bar contains different options for allowing us to select entities using different methods in Mastercam. The default is what we call standard selection. And standard selection gives us two options. As I move my cursor towards one of these entities, you'll notice that we get this black and white stipple highlighting, which indicates that my cursor has picked up this entity as something that could be selected. I can move my cursor over to the right, and as it nears the circle on the right, you'll notice that instead of selecting the middle circle, we're now selecting, or potentially selecting, the circle on the right. This stipple highlighting is also known as auto highlight. And the purpose is to show you the entity that Mastercam is about to select if and when you click on it. So standard selection in Mastercam is this: left click to select an entity, and left click or first mouse button, so mouse button 1 or left click, to select and deselect an entity. So for example, I can left click on the arc in the center, and I can left click on the arc on the left hand side. And now as I move my cursor away from those two entities, you'll notice that the stipple highlighting has changed from a black-white to a yellow-black configuration. The yellow color indicating or visually showing to us that those two entities are selected. So now that I've selected some entities, I can either choose a new color for them from one of the color menus up here on the attributes panel. So for example, I can change them from blue to orange, as I just did. Or I can select them again, and I can right click anywhere in the graphics window, and that's going to give me access to the right mouse button menu. And from there, on this little attributes pop-up menu, I can then choose a new color. Maybe I want to choose a green. Now, as I'm looking at these three arcs on the screen, depending on how you're working and you like to work, one of the things that we can do to maybe make this easier to see, maybe a little more visually apparent, is to change the line width. So I'll select all three arcs by left clicking on them each once, and then I'll right click, and in the middle of my attributes panel, I'll select maybe a medium line width. And now you can see that those three arcs are thicker in their display of their line style. So a line width actually applies, it should be maybe called drawing width, since it affects lines, arcs, and splines. It doesn't just apply to lines, it applies to all wireframe entities. So in this first section of the video, we've taken a look at the quick access toolbar, which is up in the upper left-hand corner of the Mastercam interface. We've looked at the file menu, or the backstage view. In this case, since I'm working with a part, I'll go ahead and save it. I'll do a save as, and I'll browse to a different location. In this case, I'll go to the My Documents. I'll create a new folder to put this in. we'll call this Mill Essentials Training Tutorial Sample 1. So you notice we went into the backstage view to save the Mastercam file. And then we started to explore the ribbon style toolbar. So we've looked at the home ribbon, and we switched over to the wireframe ribbon and used the create circle center point command to create 3 arcs in sort of a random fashion. And we did that to start looking at some of the attributes command, such as change color and change line stop.